Welcome to this video. This is Tata Steel 2015 round 4 coverage. This video is uploaded a little bit later than usual for those round recaps. I simply couldn't do it. Couldn't do it yesterday. It was too late, and I'm doing this now, being a little bit fresher in my head. Probably a good thing. So let's get started with round 4. I'm starting basically with the less interesting games, and I do them quickly. There were some not very exciting games this time. The first not very exciting one is between Women World Champion Hou-Giri and Dutch number 1 Hou-Giri. This is really something that we can look at quickly. They played an Italian game. One of those anti-Berlins nowadays, and Hou-Giri played knight f6. Now, unfortunately, Hou-Giri, she didn't play knight g5, which is the most interesting move in a way, from the spectator's point of view at least, which would lead to some complications after d5 and this kind of thing. Probably this is what Giri would have played. The other lines seem a bit questionable. Leads to very interesting gambit play, and a rare case where knight f6 is played by a top player. They mostly go bishop c5, but she just played d3, which is understandable in a way. It's the solid choice. And Giri now bishop e7. This is a difference between the bishop c5 and bishop knight f6 move order, that you still have this bishop on e7 as an option. Yeah, this is all fairly normal. a4, gaining some space on the queen side, allowing bishop a2 if you want, and king h8. An interesting plan. This is in fact exactly how I play this as black, and I sometimes thought that this is not maybe the soundest plan ever, but Giri playing it gives me some hope. This is the idea. You quickly go for f5 for an aggressive counterplay. And as it often is when you play in a very aggressive fashion early on, it can lead to some exchanges and simplifications. And this is what happened here. Takes, took on e4, and black got this tempo in d5. Well, this is fairly logical, and we see that black has a weakness on e5, but in return has an advantage in development. Yeah, and Hou-Giri now, she plays it really simple. Takes and knight c3, simply developing. The point of knight c3 is to have the d1 square covered. White, of course, couldn't grab material because of the check. Yeah, this is a bad problem. So knight c3 is the good move to cover cover d1. Yeah, and Giri now, I mean, he can also play something else where he went for this move, attacking on c2. That's logical in a way. You can play something different, like this, just cover e5, but then you always kind of run the slight risk that you have a long-term issue with this pawn, probably, and the square on e4, which is also something that white may use, like knight g5, e4. Not bad for black, but it's not really something great to play. So why I'm telling you about that is knight b4 is what he did, and after that we are very likely to get exactly what we have in the game. It's not easy to deviate from that. She now took on e5, knight to c2, and rook a2. Yeah, and in this position now, this was flicked in, makes lots of sense, and then we already got the draw. We have this repetition. It looks a bit lame, yeah, but both sides cannot really do something else. White now, well, she doesn't want to run into any discovery by this knight. It looks kind of silly. And well, rook a2, black, theoretically speaking, could try to deviate, yeah, like this, and now let's say, well, I don't know, knight f6, yeah, just put something out. But is this playing for a win, really, yeah? Or are you just continuing and risking a worse position? This is really the question. White can easily develop, or even knight d4 is a move possibly to go to e6. The thing is, probably if black is continuing, he's risking to be worse. And while certainly Giri is the better player, he will not be able to like win a technically worse position against Hou-Giri. So it's understandable that they made a draw. And well, she probably didn't object to it as well. It's either, yeah, it's hard to deviate for white as well. So either I keep making this as well mistake, but I'm getting better with it. Okay, let's load the next game. Yeah, it's loaded now. Please note that in other videos I have the correct, relatively correct times for the games. This time I don't. So this is basically bogus, yeah, what you have on the clocks. Yeah, so Aronian going for c4, and Wojciech here plays a very classical setup that easily can lead to a Catalan opening if white is going for d4 now. This is actually the most ambitious move, going for the Catalan main lines with g4. But Aronian goes knight f3 and stays within the English opening Reti kind of territory. Reti it is technically. Yeah, black now took on c4. This is a very good line for black that probably will give him very good chances to equalize. Yeah, why is that? Yeah, white mostly plays with queen a4, check, the way that Aronian played now, because with other moves you sometimes have problems to get the pawn back on c4. And check. In this kind of situation, black has the idea to play b5, bishop b7 and c5. And if he gets that in, he normally has very good chances to be equal. The bishop on b7 will in a way neutralize the g2 bishop, and black has gained some space on the queen side. Yeah, we see a similar scenario. Queen c2, c5, knight c3, queen c7. Yeah, note that for the moment the move b5 is a little bit loose, yeah, because of this. And that's not good. Black is playing some preparatory moves and now has to be a little bit more modest with b6, but he will get the move bishop b7 in. d4, bishop b7, takes. Yeah, I mean, you can argue where did white go wrong here in terms of playing for an advantage. I think the whole line with not going for d4 promises very, very little. But probably around here there was something more, with a little bit more bite, maybe bishop f4. But it's very difficult to avoid a situation that is also arising in the game, where those pawns are traded, and now we have an open d file and an open c file. And very often you just have mass exchanges there. The only thing that white is going for him a little bit is that his pawn structure is slightly sounder. The pawns are back on the second rank, while a6, b6 sometimes can be a weakness for black. And those are easily or are more likely to be attacked by white than vice versa. But it is really a very, very even position. Yeah, you see white is a bit quicker on the c file, but Wojciech is playing this very, very carefully, and he doesn't allow anything here. Castles, yeah, and we see what I mentioned. We got those trades going on the c file. Yeah, and here, yeah, Aronian here found a neat little idea, but it ultimately only leads to equality. Rook d7, knight, and knight c5. It's quite funny. Yeah? He's threatening the checkmate now, and also threatening knight d7. And well, this is now forced. Takes, knight d7, queen moves, takes, and we have a queen endgame with equal number of pawns, which is simply completely equal. I mean, black has two very slight weaknesses here, but they are easily defendable. Yeah, now the queen on d8 holds those two weaknesses, and there's absolutely nothing white can do. They continued for a surprisingly long time, actually.
Check.
I mean, it's useless to spend time on that. It was really destined to be a draw for a while after this this kind of thing happened here. This mass trades at the end. It really was a draw, and not a very exciting game. Yeah, Aronian probably also a bit shocked from yesterday's loss where he blundered against Wesley. So while Wojciech obviously after winning against Carlsen was in a good mood, and well, this is not the kind of position where you can win as black, but being totally solid against Aronian is good. So let's go to the next game. Yeah, this is Caruana against Wesley. So let's see. Caruana, of course, one of the tournament leaders with his 2 wins, and Wesley so also with a win yesterday against Aronian. Yeah, we get a Ruy Lopez and not a Berlin, thankfully. But we get something that also is quite in fashion. This little move D3 here instead of rook E1. Interesting. The idea of D3 is that sometimes the move rook E1 is not strictly necessary, and white sometimes can do without it. One rationale is also that if you go rook E1 and black goes B5, bishop B3, castles, so angling for the martial attack, very often white will avoid the martial attack with this. Yeah, this is the martial attack. White very often will avoid it and go for something like this, like H3, let's say bishop B7, D3, D6, this kind of situation. And here, quite often you ask yourself, really, do I need the rook here on E1? And sometimes white answers this with no. And this led to this variation being more popular. It leads to the same structure, but without rook E1. Only some really small subtleties here. Knight C3. This is an additional option here for white. D6, A3. Yeah, Knight D5 is also possible. And now Knight B8. Yeah, Wesley so is just going for the classical regrouping, the Breyer regrouping. Knight B8, Knight BD7, named after Gyula Breyer, the Hungarian player, who invented a number of opening lines. To be honest, they are almost all. I mean, there's more than one. I think there are these 3 lines, and they are mostly not very good. The only good one is the Breyer in the Spanish, with Knight B8, Knight D7, and this is the same motif here. Black wants to put the Knight on D7 and use the C-pawn in the battle. The C-pawn is always blocked by the Knight on C6. Yeah, and now A4, B4, this straight, and now we see that the Knight finds a good square, ultimately. Okay, I remembered that the Knight was regrouped, but I thought to C5, I remembered that wrong. Yeah, this is what they got, a fairly typical Spanish position. Black is solid. He has to be a little bit careful about those squares, that white pieces are not getting strong there, but here we see that the Knight gets into play. With F5, he gets active play also for his bishop, so here black is totally fine, and he also threatens this idea. Yeah, at the moment, king on H8 was always a bit exposed. There was queen A2 as a possible reply to bishop G4. And now white removes the knight because he was afraid of the pin. Yeah, this is an equal material position, which has some symmetry in it, and black is really completely fine here. Moves like this, everything is nicely centralized, and white reroutes the knight to E4. It is really a very, it's a somewhat dry position.
Check.
I've got those trades, and here they agree to draw. Yeah, it isn't the most exciting game ever. I think what you can take from this game is that the Breyer regrouping with Knight B8 comes into consideration quite often, and here it was a good way to play as well. Yeah, with this, we see that the knight ultimately found a good square on b6. Originally thought it was c5, but he went to b6, to get a good square for this knight. And white really doesn't have much. I mean, I always fear that white doesn't have much in those d3 lines in the Ruy, but this is probably because I played with black all the time. And I always, well, I'm not really worried if they put a pawn on d3. But this is how it is played nowadays quite often. And mostly due to the fact that the more aggressive lines are completely fine at the moment for black. The martial attack in particular. Okay, so on to the next game. And I promise you the rest of the games are far more interesting. yeah, we continue with Radjabov, white against Dingliren with black. Yeah, an interesting pairing. And the more interesting even is that they play King's Indian, which is funny. Dingliren is playing the King's Indian quite often with very good results. And Radjabov is, of course, probably the most prominent King's Indian player of our time. He has really made this a trademark opening where he scored many impressive wins. So we have two experts battling here. Radjabov this time battling his favorite defense. He's going for this h3 line, an interesting variation that I've played myself quite a bit. It is a very flexible line where white only later decides if he wants to castle or if he wants to castle short, I mean, or if he wants to castle long or keep the king in the center. Often g4 is a key move later. Yeah, e5, d5, knight h5. This is an interesting choice. Nowadays, this knight h5 move has been in a way resurrected. It was under cloud for quite a while due to knight h2. People mostly thought that this would be good for white. This looks strange, I know. The idea is to play bishop e2 and attack the knight. And the big point is that in this line here, black has found a new way to play. This is with f5, g3, and knight takes h3. And after bishop g2, they take. Knight takes. Note that this knight has no square. Yeah, there are many lines here where this knight is even sacrificed, yeah, on f2 or on f4. So this has been improved for black quite a bit, and this led to white players playing g3 mostly, which yeah, it is a slight concession certainly in comparison to knight h2, but it seems that it is an okay line for white. Takes, knight g5. Yeah, this attacks the knight, and black covers it. Queen e8 is often useful here. It helps to cover the e6 square, and okay, you had to attend to the knight. Bishop e2, and the knight had to retreat. Bishop e3, knight a6. Yeah, you have to go to a6. Knight d7 is not a good idea because of that. So knight to a6, queen d2, bishop d7. That's all looks very normal. And long castles. Yeah, white is castling long, getting the king on the queen side, and long term he wants to do something against black's king. He wants to play like f4, g4 in the right moment. Another plan could be, but this is not so easy to do from this particular position, is to put a piece on e6 and sacrifice a pawn to break through, but it's very difficult to do here as mentioned. We see that after h6, knight f3, knight c5, black is going for a very direct counterplay. Yeah, h6 is hanging, but if we take it, knight e4 is a big problem. Takes, oops, to e3, and now black has the shot f4. Very strong move. Yeah, very nice. If white takes, he loses huge chunks of material here. Or if he takes the knight, the queen is trapped. Quite funny, yeah? So bishop takes h6 was not possible. Nice tactical way to play it. Yeah, white went with knight h4. It's a question if there is something else. White can take on c5 maybe. This is suggested by the engines, but it's a move that, yeah, it's a move that strong players don't really like to make, because what you do is you give up your dark squared bishop, and even if you have some immediate gains from it, this bishop on g7 will be ultimately a very strong piece. It's an unopposed bishop on the long diagonal. For example, if white goes, let's say here, yeah, to attack this, black will play e4, white goes somewhere, maybe here, yeah, for this maneuver. And then let's say black keeps the pawn. The problem is this is a super strong diagonal. And it's very uncomfortable for a human to play this. Yeah? Maybe the computer likes it. I think it gives white some advantage. Not much, nevertheless, but it's a very ambitious way to play, to give up your dark squared bishop. And Radjabov, of course, knows all of those things. He has won on the black side of the King's Indian so often with his bishop that he didn't take it. This is okay for white, but probably about equal. Yeah, now he provoked the e4 move. The idea is that after black has pushed e4, he has given up control over f4, so that white maybe can reroute his knight. Rook c8, interesting. He wants to play c6, possibly c5 to open up. Yeah, c5. The idea was, and this is how it happened, that the rook could take. Yeah, you can argue if white has to take. I mean, he can also do something like that, yeah, trying to reroute the knight, but have to reckon with this move, b3. And then I thought queen e5 is an idea. And you're maybe going to regret that you have played b3. Or white can do this to attack d6. And again, yeah, well, this prevents queen e5, but black has many other possibilities. You can just you cannot play queen e7. Now maybe you can do this, just to cover the pawn, and then angle for b5. This is what I was getting at. Even if there is no concrete way for black forward, you will always have b5 now, trying to open up the b file and use this combined power, bishop g7, rook on b8. Yeah, I don't know, but capturing gets the rook into play. Black has some activity here. Queen d2. Yeah, also knight g4 and knight g2 was possible. The matter of move order, both was possible. Bishop takes g5. Yeah, this is one of those moments, yeah, where white is spending, is giving up his dark squared bishop for a pawn. It's a decision that this is maybe not directly tactically bad, but it gives black the kind of play that he wants, I guess. Rook a6. Look at this now. What a great bishop. Yeah, if you compare this bishop with this knight, for example, or you can also compare it to the e2 bishop, this is a fantastic piece. And black has direct ideas. Queen a4 is one of them. So I'm not sure if really taking on g5 was that great. Rook d2 to help in the defense, and now b5, an interesting way to open up everything. Queen a4 I think also was interesting. b3, yeah, and queen takes b3
Check.
is a funny line to draw, but
Check.
I think Ding already wanted
Check.
to play for a win. This is obviously okay, it's a
Check.
draw, but b5 is the more aggressive way to do it. Yeah, and here we come to a position where white probably has to play g4. This is also given by the computers. You have to do something here. You cannot just stay put. He played this rook c1, this defensive move. Instead, as mentioned, g4 was probably the way to go. Trying to activate. If black now would capture, then the open h file in connection with knight f5 gives very good counterplay for white. Yeah, after g4, black has to think about what to do. He always has play, yeah, but it's not easy to play this precisely. Queen d8 is what is mostly given by the comps, but it is debatable how good this is. Let's take here maybe. Bishop c4, yeah, and this is quite messy. Yeah, black is a pawn down. but he has active pieces. Yeah, b3. After b3, it's quite funny. Even very, very aggressive ways to play are possible, like d5. If white grabs, all of a sudden the b file will be a huge source of counterplay. Yeah, note that again there are funny ideas
Check.
for draws like this.
Check. Check.
And this will fall. Yeah, this is not a direct draw, but it will trade down to almost no pieces left. Yeah, it's a super complicated position, and rook c1 is what Radjabov played. Queen f7, intensifying the pressure on c4. Knight g6. And bishop f6. Yeah, this is now really, really tough. It seems that here is the final moment where Radjabov could have stayed in the game. Yeah, with queen h5. This is what he has to do. He played queen h6, and this now leads to huge problems that are probably that he's probably not able to solve, even if he had enough time on the clock. I guess they both didn't have much left, but it's still rook b8 now. Yeah, this is the attacking move now, threatening b takes c4. Note that white can never ever take because of this.
Check. Check.
Yeah, this is a
Check.
concrete
Check.
way to checkmate.
Check. 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 Checkmate.
Yeah, long line, but very, very forced. Okay, yeah, what did he do? It is by now you cannot save it anymore, because, well, if white cannot take on b5, black will take on c4, and this will open up the b file with decisive effect. Knight f4, bishop c4, takes, knight d5, and now c3 hits. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. All pieces in the attack. That's too much.
Check.
Yeah, that still looks kind of interesting, but it ultimately needs nowhere. This is it's even
Check.
mate. It's this is also a mate. Yeah.
Check. Check.
Oh, sorry.
Checkmate.
Let's do the immediate mate. I overlooked that the bishop still controls a2. Yeah, so black's attack is irresistible by now, and the way it went after queen to g5 was this, and he just took it.
Check. Check.
Knight h7, and
Check. Check.
yeah, black could allow all that simply because he had seen that when it comes to this position that he will be winning. d1 mate has to be covered.
Check.
And now
Check.
it is really over. The problem is that king d2 is answered by rook
Check.
takes, king here,
Check.
check, king only can go there.
Check.
Yep, and we win the queen. So a win for Ding, China's top player, and he's got now 3 wins in a row. Quite amazing. He started this tournament with a somewhat bad loss. I mean, it didn't really look great. Yeah, his game against Caruana, where he lost pretty much without a chance as white. But he's really bounced back from this and now has won 3 games in a row. And for Radjabov, it doesn't seem to be a great event. Yeah, let's go to the next game. Yeah, Badur Jobava with white against Ivanchuk. Let's see, Jobava really lost badly the round before with black against Ding. Let's see what he's doing now. Okay, he's playing a fairly normal opening for a change. And yeah, goes bishop g5 against Sharic semi-Slav. h6 is played. Takes, all very standard and normal. After e3, black has a choice. He has to think about how to develop his bishop. And the old way to do it is with bishop d6, yeah, probably like this, let's say. And then in the last 2 decades, they found out that it is a good idea sometimes in this kind of position to fianchetto, yeah, get the bishop on g7, why not? And ultimately they came to the conclusion, theoreticians, that even g6 is a feasible move, and this was played now by Šarić. e4. That's a funny move, right? White has played e3 and only after g6 pushes e4 the same pawn again. Yeah, it is in fact not such a bad move. It has the idea that g6 has obviously weakened the dark squares quite a bit, so white wants to open up and get his knight on e4. This all would be really, really great if it weren't for this check. This is the all-important move that black has to play. Of course, it makes g6 look a little bit weird, but the main point is now with this check, white is forced to, to play a very, very passive retreating move like this, which gives him absolutely nothing, or to play as Jobava did, the funny move king e2. Yeah, it looks really strange, yeah, blocking this, and it probably isn't very, very good, but it is an interesting way to play. I think that the next move played by Šarić is a mistake. He played the move queen to e7. Looks very normal, but it seems that this move is much stronger. You want this tempo, or queen f5, I think. Both is possible. It's a matter of taste maybe, but you want this tempo on the knight. The idea is that you can push this, put this bishop back on e7, where it covers those 2 squares. The way he plays, he goes to e7, white has c5, and now we see that this bishop is cut off from the action, and d6 is now a huge outpost possibly for white's knight. This is probably quite okay for white, so I think queen f5, queen f4, those moves were better. Queen a4, yeah, we see that this bishop is in slight trouble. Knight moves, a3, b5. All this is necessary, yeah? Otherwise the bishop is gone. If white now takes, black has a very strong counterplay f5. I know that looks really weird and chaotic, but the key point is that you have to open up lines against the king, and you can do that even letting the bishop on b4 hang. If white takes, f takes, let's say, and here the situation is completely unclear. Yeah, I mean, what a mess. Yeah, everything is weak. Everything is weak. There's a pawn here. Yeah, but ultimately this king is probably even in more trouble than black's king. This is okay. Queen b3 is much better. Bishop a5, knight e5. Yeah, we see that those pieces are not helping to fight those knights. Knight b8. Yeah, he wants to reroute, maybe trade one knight on e5 with knight d7. Queen g3, a good move. Yeah, making sure that any f-pawn move can be answered convincingly. Bishop c7. Yeah, and here we come to a key point where it's a bit difficult to understand what Jobava is doing now. If he plays now f4 or h4, one of those two moves, probably f4, white is just in very good shape. Yeah, he has fantastic space advantage with 2 knights, and they cannot be easily expelled because any f-pawn move gets punished quite convincingly. Yeah, let's say king g7. Yeah? I mean, it's hard to give black some advice. Then h4, and you really have a good position, a really, really great position. It would have been much better if you think back for black to put, when he had the chance to play queen f5 or queen f4. At this moment he had the possibility to get the bishop back to e7 to cover those squares, and here the squares are immensely weak. The bishop on c7 also covers d6 now, but he has spent huge time in the process, and he had to play the move b5, which is something that you really don't want to play. Black would really like to play b6 at some point, yeah, fighting against this pawn, but well, b5, it was necessary, otherwise the bishop would have been lost on b4. Yeah, here white has a fantastic position. Instead, this crazy move was played, and I'm sorry, it's really a bit crazy. Why would you put the king even further up the board? Yeah, it does something. It protects d4, but f4 was just the far more convincing solution. Maybe it's possible. Maybe Jobava somehow overlooked the reply. I mean, I don't know. It's possible. g5 was black's move now, and this is a strong move. Yeah, he removes this pawn from g6 and puts it to g5, and this makes f5 a real possibility. And this means f5, possibly f4, winning the queen with the fork. And this now is awkward, really awkward. He played f4, which is ultimately, yeah, not great. Not great for white, but after king e3, it's difficult to give him any advice. It all depends on this position now. What Jobava now plays is, unfortunately for him, completely incorrect. What he could have done is, he could have played knight d6, and after takes, queen takes, something like, let's say h4. I just want to complete the picture. And now maybe rerouting the queen, or rook c1, something like that. Or let's start with the move here. What I'm getting at is that here he has still a good knight, and black's pieces are not active. It's not what you want with white, but here you have chances to fight. It's all a little bit awkward with the king on e3, but it's probably what he needed to do. In the game he played h4 and simply gave up the piece, and you really don't have any realistic attacking chances. He tried hard, but black is simply defending. I mean, we could look at this a little bit longer, but there is really nothing serious going on. We had rooks against queen traded, but ultimately white lacks attacking pieces, and Šarić is not allowing anything. He's only slightly, yeah, it's his coordination is a bit off, but it's nothing serious. Here actually Jobava resigned. Black here has this extra piece, and there is no attack possible for white. So again, a somewhat weird game by the top player from Georgia. I guess the first round loss where he basically gifted the game away to Ivanchuk was affecting him, or is affecting him. Okay, let's load the next game. Yeah, let's have a look at the world champion now, who's struggling in this tournament. Carlsen on -1. He played 2 not very inspiring draws and then lost against Radjabov in the 3rd round. And again he's got black, so very very heavy on the black pieces his first 4 rounds. Playing black against Luc van Veli, certainly a game where Carlsen wants to try something. He has to get a win in, otherwise it's will be very difficult to stay, to get somewhere near the leaders. Let's see. Yeah, at least not g6 d6 again. Maybe he has put this on the shelf for this tournament, and he's going probably for the Grünfeld, and Van Veli plays g3. That's one of the most solid ways to play against the fianchetto systems. Yeah, the Grünfeld, fianchetto, King's Indian fianchetto, they are all considered to be very, very reliable for white, with this typical situation where you can press a bit, but you don't risk anything. Yeah, the most sound move now is c6, as played by Caruana in round 1 against Ding. Difficult, however, to play for win. Remember that after this, Ding played b3, and they got a tense position, but white can also just trade and play this, and this kind of exchange variation, it is a bit reminiscent of the Slav, is very, very boring, and for black difficult to do anything. So d5, trying to get something non-symmetrical on the board. Takes, knight b6. Looks a bit funny to retreat it voluntarily, but black has an idea in mind. After this, he wants to attack this pawn. And what he wants to do is, he wants to prevent d5. Yeah? This is
check.
blundering a pawn. White normally now plays e3, covering the pawn, but Fenvedi just castles. This is an interesting move order. The idea is that black now, in order to somehow punish white for that, should take. But this capture is in fact not that brilliant. There are a number of ideas, especially a4 is an interesting way to play, intending a5, a6, or knight b5. This recently has become somewhat fashionable, it seems. I'm not an expert. I had to look it up in the databases. Carlsen is avoiding that. He's not taking. He just plays castles. And now white went d5. Very interesting way to play. Not well known. I actually have played it myself in a game. The idea is that if black now wants to try to win the pawn, white can of course take here. And here white will have the better pawn structure after a later capture on b7. Yeah, black has to move the knight. Here we go. Knight a5. And now queen c2. This is the idea. Yeah, we want to play rook d1 quickly. And knight takes d5 is possible maybe, but very dangerous for black. Yeah, something like c6, e4, knight b4. This leads to very, very intricate complications. And probably not complications where black is really playing for a win. Carlsen went c6. This is the best move probably. Getting this knight back into the game. Rook d1. Bishop d7. Not much to deviate. And queen c8. That's a good move. Getting out of the d file. Possibly preparing to trade or activate the bishop on d7. Rook c1. Bishop f5, e4. Yeah, this was the provocation, yeah. Getting white to play e4, so that possibly there are some weaknesses in white's position, especially connected to maybe capturing and putting a knight on d4. Queen b3, interesting. Queen e6. Yeah, queen b3, there are other ideas here. Knight d5 was one of them. Maybe this is the move to play if you really want to try for something. It's the more ambitious move. And yeah, one idea is actually to just take on c6 here. Yeah? If black is doing something nonsensical like this, there's queen c6.
Check.
And white has won a pawn with a fantastic position. All in all, knight d5 would lead to at least a slight edge, I think. Black is not easy to play. If you go e5, for example, there is a tactic, I think. Knight takes e5. Oh, funny idea. Bishop takes, knight takes, rook takes. Yeah, I know it's very irritating. Black can take, but don't forget about knight f6, those kind of ideas. Yeah, what he probably has to do after knight d5, black probably should do this: e5, knight e5. Sorry, bishop e5, knight d5. This will lead to a huge number of trades. And black is active enough probably to secure something close to equality. Knight d5 was what white should have done, but he played queen b3. This would be a good strengthening move, making knight d5 even more problematic, but there's queen e6, and this trades queens, unfortunately, for white. Yeah, takes, and now f takes. Yeah, important move, not taking with the bishop. f takes is much stronger. This puts immediate pressure on those pieces, and it controls the important d5 square. Now it's already over with any hopes for an advantage for white. He went e5, knight d5, takes, takes. Yeah, note that white can take on d5, but this is a bit embarrassing. Yeah? Those two bishops are the problem. Yeah, he played knight g5. This is a good move. Yeah, inviting bishop d1, bishop takes d5. Sorry, king h8, rook d1, and white has a really good compensation here. Knight f7 is hard to fight against. e6, f3, yeah, attacking the bishop, counter-attacking. Yeah, this is all very much forced, and here we get close to a critical position. White played bishop f4. Rook c7 was also interesting, but he went here and knight c6 back. And now the mysterious moment in the game is coming. I didn't see the press conference. I couldn't watch that. Here, I mean, white can play a normal move like rook c2 or rook d2 maybe. Yeah, rook c2 looks normal. Yeah, just covering this pawn. And I don't really see that anything bad is happening to him. Black cannot easily move those pawns. They look nice, connected pass pawns, but it's not so easy to move them. Yeah, d5, d4 would give this here, would give this bishop a fantastic diagonal, and there's always pressure on d5 by the g2 bishop. So not easy for black to do anything. White is definitely okay here. It's equal material. And white has the bishops. He played g5, however. Yeah, and the mysterious point is black just takes the pawn. What else? And I really don't see what white has for it. It's quite weird. Rook moves and check. Yeah, of course, if this is happening... Oops, sorry. Mouse slip. There's always the check. Yeah, so white does not get b7 back after a king move, bishop b6. Black is really just a pawn up. There is nothing. There's nothing more about this position. It's just a pawn, and hard to understand what Van Velde was planning.
Check.
Yeah, Carlsen now is just a pawn up. Yeah, black can keep everything, protect the weaknesses. Yeah, there was a pin motif. Yeah, black cannot take here because of this pin here. So rook on the side, bishop e6. Yeah, this was already necessary. Yeah, if you move the bishop back here, black is invading, and you have absolutely no counterplay for white. This happened. This is straight. Here, by the way, rook b7 was a further mistake in a way. Yeah, gf was more resilient, but it probably is not helping much. Something like this ultimately will win for black. Yeah, it's two pieces against a rook, and there are still 3 pawns on the board that black's pieces can attack in a combined way, and black is better here. There's no doubt about it. Better, I mean, probably close to winning, to be precise. Yeah, rook b7 was played, and this loses even quicker, but it's not a real difference. f3, rook on the side, and now you see that
check.
We get to this position, and well, this is such a strong pawn. It's just winning. The only thing
check.
that is nice to show is the final move here, knight to h2. Yeah, I clicked a little bit too quickly, but this is a cute move. Yeah, rook f4, it looks a bit tricky at first as 2 pieces are hanging, but knight h2 is the great reply. Rook takes,
check.
Queen is easy, and if the king takes, this bishop e5, all of a sudden with a deadly pin, winning this rook. Yeah, so the first win for Carlsen in this tournament, it was badly needed to have at least some kind of chance in this tournament. He was on -1, now is on 50%. Yeah, but he needs more wins, definitely. Maybe tomorrow is the next opportunity, but not easy. I think he's playing Aronian. So we will be curious how he fares in the next rounds. There's one game left that I'm going to load now. Yeah, and the game to look at is Ivanchuk playing white against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Yeah, Ivanchuk had a great start. He has 2 wins and 1 draw, and now plays here in round 4 the third game with the white pieces. And it's funny, the third time he's got an open Sicilian on the board, this time the knight off. While the Sicilian is certainly, besides 1e5, the most popular answer to e4, in current top-level events you see really a lot of 1e5 and less Sicilians. And if they play a Sicilian, quite often a sideline will be played. And now Ivanchuk, for the third time, he has got the open Sicilian, the knight off. Yeah, he goes for bishop e3, which is nowadays probably the main line. Knight g4, aggressive move. White just drops back, knight f6 back, bishop e3, and they agree to draw. No, they didn't. Of course not. Yeah, this is a funny sequence. And actually something that happens quite often with the top-level players. They do this repetition. Yeah, in fact, they did it once again. And now Ivanchuk is deviating, continuing the game. He doesn't want to draw with white, but this little repetition gained some time on the clock. And this is something valuable for Ivanchuk. As we all know, he tends to get into enormous time pressure. h6 and g5. Yeah, this is a kind of the kind of opening that is difficult to explain to a beginning player because it looks weird. Black is putting those pawns out and it's not developing very much. But what he's getting is he's got a fantastic looking bishop on g7, and he's got this idea: the knight might come to e5, and when the knight is on e5, the pawn on g5 helps to secure this piece. Yeah, if we get rid of some of the arrows, the knight on e5, then f4 can always be answered by the capture. So black is fighting for the dark squares with this setup. h3, knight e5, there it is. Bishop e2, knight c6, knight b3. Yeah, note that white cannot play any routine move. Yeah, something like this is
check.
A very embarrassing sequence, losing the queen. Knight b3, b5, a4, which is new it seems. Knight d5. Yeah, my slight issue with this game is that I am not an expert on this opening at all. I have played the knight off, funny enough, for quite a while, but I never played knight g4. Back then I mostly played e5 or e6, those kind of lines. What I do know is that relatively quickly black comes into some trouble. I mean, we will see we will see how quick it is going down, but it's very difficult for me to really determine what went wrong. What is quite uncommon is if we look at what happens: e6, knight back, bishop b7, queen d2, queen c7, long castles, long castles. This is really uncommon that black is castling long in this opening. And to be perfectly honest, when we look at this here with long castles, we can put out king b1 if we want. That here it seems that white is just a little bit more comfortable. You have an idea as white, somehow c3 in the right moment, maybe opening the queen side. And it's not clear what black is doing. He always has to take care of this pawn. This is somewhat, isolated is the wrong word. It's a little bit disconnected from the rest of the position. and might become a liability. He always has to, yeah, protect it in some way. And it's not clear what black's active play is. He can never play d5, never play f5. The knight on e3 is quite strong piece. And there's also nothing to do on the king side. Yeah, you can never really, with any justification, play h5 or whatever. It feels like white is better in this position, but I cannot really tell you how he should have played. I mean, this looks fairly normal to me. This, yeah, can you play without castling, or, yeah, I mean, castling short, there will be h4. Yeah, this cannot really be the right way to go. Yeah, maybe you can castle, but have to improve somewhere here. I'm not sure how, however. It's really not easy. Look at how smoothly now this game runs. King b8 looks fairly normal. f3, just strong. Setting up this chain. e4 is protected, and h4 is further supported. a5, yeah, because he wants to move this knight at some point in the game, and h4. So white is better on the king side, definitely. Knight a7, yeah, this doesn't look right somehow, but what are you doing here? What are you doing? Yeah. The thing is, black always suffers from those weaknesses. You can, I mean, just one possible line. If we do something like that, which is probably not forced, white is doing this, like this. Maybe rook over to c1, c3. He's opening up on the queen side, and black really has no play. I really feel that he's in trouble here. Yeah, that's a relatively logical sequence, I guess. And bishop c4 now is played. Yeah, white is having this idea to put the bishop on b3, preparing or covering a4. Yeah, and the bishop on c4, it looks at the d5 square at e6. Black is without any active plan. Knight f4, bishop b3, c5, and knight c4. Yeah, this is the problem. White has really strong pieces. a5 and d6 is weak, and he has no clear way, let's say, black to do something active. Now he played bishop to a6, and funny enough, after that move he is lost already. It's really the case. White went bishop f2, setting up this discovered attack on the queen, and well, you have no way to go. I mean, you can go back like this, but white will just take on a5 and win. Yeah? b4 hangs. It feels really that this combination of castling long with b5, it really doesn't feel right. In the actual game, he took on c4, and after knight b5, I think he already resigned. Yeah, very nice position. Of course, white is completely winning. The queen is attacked, and if it goes here, for example, check. And here, and it is trapped. Or alternatively, if black goes, let's say, to c6,
check.
This. And this will lose the whole queen side. Yeah, means that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave resigned here after knight b5, and this gets Ivanchuk to a +3 score after 4 rounds. Yeah, even at his advanced age, he's I think 45 now. He remains a fantastic competitor. If he's in good shape, if he's kind of in the mood to really play, he's still one of the strongest players in the world, clearly. And yeah, now has the sole lead in this event. He had 3 whites in those 4 rounds. 3 times they got the Sicilian, and 3 times it was the open Sicilian, and Ivanchuk won all 3 games. Yeah, that's really a great performance. It also shows a little bit why, yeah, maybe 1e5 is getting so popular, the Sicilian just loses more games. It's not a worse opening or anything, but people very often prefer safety, and the Sicilian has this inherent risk in a way that you sometimes get games like this where black is really pushed off the board. It's very difficult for me here really to tell what was the mistake. Somewhere out I'm still a bit mystified. Even if you, obviously I check all the lines with computers. Even the computer doesn't give a clear indication. If you are just very slavishly just reproducing its
Check.
you see that black's position is deteriorating slowly. Yeah, like 1%, like 10% of a pawn here and there, and it's just slowly downhill. But it's hard to determine really what the big problem is. I don't know. Do you really want to castle short here? This cannot be really right. Or do you just keep the king in the middle? Difficult. It's really not my kind of position. So I'm a bit mystified what really was the reason why black lost this game. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the coverage. I'll be back with more, of course, on Thursday. There's a rest day on Wednesday today, and on Thursday I'll be back. In fact, on Thursday, if you are a member of the ICC, you can watch the live broadcast, as they have a live broadcast every round. But this broadcast will actually be done by Grandmaster Joe Benjamin and myself. I'm glad to join the team of commentators, the ICC, for the top level events. At least this is the first one that I get, so I hope I'm not making a total fool out of myself. So they intend to give me more, they plan to give me more jobs. Would be great. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that, but I will also do, of course, the game of the day for the channel, so look forward to that. Thanks for watching.